Hello everybody out there, how are you doing? This is Rob of Rule of Two Review. Welcome back to the channel. And before we get started on this topic today, obviously we have to talk about the elephant in the room, or the Metroid in the room, maybe, to stay on theme. Obviously you can see that I am back in my arm sling, and you might have noticed that I was able to make the past couple of videos here without the arm sling. That was something I tried giving a shot because I didn't really want to have to get on camera wearing it, and I was like, I can kind of take it off here and there, and I'm okay if I'm not, like, sleeping or walking around. But it kind of has proven to be just too uncomfortable for me. My operation on my clavicle is too recent, and so I don't want to have to keep talking about this and bringing this up in videos. But obviously this was going to be an eyesore when I got on camera here, so I wanted to bring it up. I'm staying in it for now. I really don't want to take it off for any future potential videos, at least for another couple of days. By next week, I should be good. And with that out of the way, now that everyone has seen it and we can just move on, I want to talk about this whole crazy situation happening right now regarding Metroid Dread, the newest, greatest, most awesome thing announced and brought into our lives, or at least into my life, right? And the fact that now people are starting to fight over the price of the game. Of course, before I dive any deeper into the Metroid Dread and price topic, I like to remind you guys I'm always trying to grow the channel here on Rule of Two Review. I upload and post several videos every single week, and I tend to live stream around once a week. I'm almost never wearing an arm sling. This is just a one-time, first-time thing. I'm trying very hard to cross 17,000 subscribers before the end of 2021, and I am getting really, really close. I cover all things Nintendo. I obviously cover all things Metroid, and I discuss all things gaming. So as you watch the video, if you seem to like what you hear and what I'm doing, then hopefully you will consider subscribing to the channel. So at this point, I don't know how much of a recap about the Metroid Dread reveal we even need, especially from me, because if you've been watching my channel the past couple of days, it's been almost all I've been talking about, man. We finally have a brand new, actual, canonical, Samus starring Metroid game, and that is a big deal because we've had some spin-offs over the recent years, such as Federation Force. That was not only a 3DS game at the time it was announced, but it didn't even feature Samus, and it was about multiplayer stuff. We've been waiting for a true Samus successor game for so long. Metroid Prime 4, that announcement came and went. 2 years later, we get an announcement of a delay and a restart, and we are still waiting for that mysterious game. However, there were rumors and leaks and stuff leading into E3 that there was potentially a new 2D Metroid game. This also matched information I had been hearing going way back to even in 2019. And sure enough, it was confirmed that there is a new game. It is 2D. It is Metroid 5, and excitingly, it is Metroid Dread. Now, you guys, I am not exaggerating when I tell you that I am living every moment of every day right now just in complete awe and utter satisfaction over the fact that this game was revealed and exists, and that it looks so incredibly excellent. It looks like everything I could want from an HD 2D Metroid 5 game, right? Even if it wasn't Metroid Dread and it was called Metroid Samus Shibugibu, I would be like, great, Samus Shibugibu, that's Metroid 5, I'm totally excited. But it's not Metroid Shibugibu, it is Metroid Dread. They revived this concept from 15 years ago. In my trailer and development history breakdown, I kind of went over Sakamoto's interview where he went over some of that the past of the history of developing this game and the 2 attempts they made in the mid to late 2000s to get this game made that fell apart, and so many years later they connected with Mercury Steam after they concluded Samus Returns, which was also fantastic, by the way. And it was this wonderful marriage that was able to make Metroid Dread finally a reality. And now that the game has been revealed and we've seen a trailer, we understand some story concepts, the development history, we've seen 2 25-minute Treehouse presentations, so we've seen a lot of gameplay as well. Now we're starting to see people pick it apart in a different way, which leads us back to, again, the beginning of the video and the title, which of course is the price of the game. It is selling for a full $60, $59.99, a standard price. Retail for most full-price games on the Nintendo Switch, especially for a first-party Nintendo franchise. $60, to me, that makes complete sense. But in true 2021 internet fashion, we have people out there complaining big time about the fact that this game is full-priced because they don't think it's worth full price. Nintendo is ripping people off solely because it's 2D, or maybe the graphics don't match their vision of what a graphical game should look like, and so they don't think this game should be sold for full price. And the saddest part is that it's more than just that they don't want to themselves pay full price, it's that they think Nintendo is actively ripping people off, and that this game is actively bad and not worth the price. I mean, those are different things, right? I mean, feeling like you have your own value that you put on any sort of product or video game, a movie, a book, some food, whatever, and thinking it doesn't match your value is different than saying it's a bad thing or it is overvalued or not worth the price it's being sold for. Those are two different concepts. And in the world of video games, in the world of Nintendo first-party content and IPs and the quality of them, and in the world of Metroid, I just don't see any sort of real justification for thinking that this game, at the standard accepted $60 price, is too much money. Now, here's the thing. Of course, this video is going to be titled something about, yes, the game is worth 60 bucks, or no, it's not overpriced at 60 bucks, whatever I end up calling it. Like, it's going to be probably some sort of matter-of-fact sounding statement. But in all fairness, if I can add the proper nuance to this discussion and this fight that people are having online, because boy is it a fight, and boy are there some spicy, hot, dirt bad takes out there revolving around this whole thing. But if I was to give it that nuance, it is fair to say that if somebody, maybe even you watching this, doesn't want to spend $60 on Metroid Dread that we saw at E3 this year, that's fine. You don't have to spend that money. You don't have to buy it for $60. You don't have to even agree with the price, to be fair. But what you shouldn't be doing is screaming about how Nintendo is ripping people off, and anyone who is going to pay that price is defending it and doing some sort of bad business practice justification. It's so messy and gross and unbelievably misguided and uninformed, and that's just why I had to kind of talk about it. Or you could maybe say, rant about it. I thought about grabbing some tweets and comments and some of those really bad takes and featuring them here in this video, but I didn't really want to go that much down like the dirty negative rabbit hole of this stuff, and I didn't really want to give any attention or energy to those people and those statements because it's just so, honestly, it's just so dumb. That's the only way I can describe it. It's so dumb. So instead, I'll just kind of describe a lot of the essence of what we're seeing, and a lot of the argument boils down to people who are comparing Metroid Dread to like other Metroidvania titles that have been released out there by third-party studios and indie studios on a variety of platforms, both the Switch and other platforms. Obviously, games like Hollow Knight and Ori and the Will of the Wisps and Blind Forest come to mind, something like a Dead Cells or even like a Super Meat Boy, you know, a lot of these kinds of games that are out there that are 2D pixel art, you know, Metroidvania or even roguelike games and kind of within the style of a 2D adventure. And yes, almost every single one of those games, in many instances, is selling for a non-full $60 price. It's worth, I mean, there are so many factors here. Yeah, you can buy, you know, for $30, you're going to buy something like an Ori and the Will of the Wisps. And I think a Hollow Knight might be 20 bucks or maybe even $15. I don't know. And those are fantastic games. I mean, I love those two series. Dead Cells, I mentioned, absolutely love Dead Cells. But there are so many factors going into why this is not the exact same thing. At the end of the day, many of these games, as great as they can be, and some of them are, they're almost always much, much, much shorter and less involved than your average Nintendo game or even your average Metroid game. They're also almost always digital only. These are games that are just small, downloadable, I don't want to say bite-sized, but shorter length experience types of games. Even games that are some of my favorites, like the two Ori games, to me are absolute masterpieces. Those are both 9.9 out of 10 to me. Love those games. I think $29.99 was the price for each. And those games, they're great, and there is a lot of content to them, all things considered, and they justify their $30 price. But they're not to the scale or the length of most Metroid games, and I'm sure that that is going to apply to Metroid Dread as well, which of course is going to be the standard exceptionally long Metroid length, a Nintendo first-party game, and of course is going to be sold in a physical retail package. It is coming on a Nintendo cartridge in a case. Also an important element that people cannot ignore, and even if you don't like to hear this, that's fine, but it's something worth noting. This isn't just another indie-developed random Metroidvania side-scroller game. This is a Nintendo legendary IP. This is Metroid. And it's not just because I'm a Metroid superfan that I'm trying to add more value to Metroid than really exists. No, it's freaking Metroid. This is one of the oldest current running franchises in the entire gaming industry. This goes back to the very genesis days of what current gaming is. It was that 1985 NES era of gaming and of Nintendo that literally saved the dead video game industry and built the foundational building blocks on everything that gaming is today. I don't care what systems or consoles or companies or game franchises you love today, because Nintendo with the NES saved gaming and also created a lot of staple genres and franchises. That's why we have all gaming. All the Xbox, PlayStation, Sega, Genesis, Dreamcast, all the different things we've gone through, even the failed Atari stuff, Nintendo did that back in the day. And a lot of that was on the legs of the Mario franchise, the Zelda franchise, and the Metroid franchise, which were started in that era. And so this is the newest and one of the longest running franchises. Nintendo's properties, their IPs, already are legendary. We know that they hold their value for a very long time. A first-party Nintendo game is going to sell for full price. And when you add to that, it is a legendary franchise like Metroid, again, it's going to sell for full price. It just makes sense. It falls in line with everything that we already know. This is how Nintendo does things. This is how people respect their quality. And that quality is an important bullet point as well, because Nintendo also makes such high-quality stuff. AAA and full price doesn't have to necessarily always do with what you think about the graphics, if you like them or not, or if they meet your standard, or even the length of the game, although I tend to factor that into my price as the length of the game. It's honestly, many times, it's just the quality. AAA is also supposed to mean it's of high quality. And while Hollow Knight and Dead Cells and those are also high quality, Metroid, in my opinion, is just of the highest quality. So it's a Metroid game, it's a Nintendo game, it's a physical retail release on the current gen Nintendo Switch. This game totally makes sense at $60. In fact, just 3.5 years ago, when Metroid Samus Returns launched on the Nintendo 3DS, which of course is the Metroid game that most immediately preceded this game, at least in terms of like release, right? Because that's Metroid 2, this is Metroid 5, but the most recent released game was Samus Returns in 2017. That was on the 3DS. That game sold for $39.99, which was full price for the Nintendo 3DS games and only $20 less than this Nintendo Switch title Metroid game is selling for. Was anyone complaining about a full-priced $40 for Metroid Samus Returns at the time that launched? No, that felt like the appropriate price for that game on that system for that quality of title with the graphics it had for the 3DS. Now, we're 3.5 years later, we're HD, we're on the Nintendo Switch, the graphics are like 3 times as amazing looking as that game was. We know it's going to be an even longer, more complex experience. Is that really not worth $20 in the eyes of people when you go from a handheld to a current gen console with newer, better HD graphics and a longer experience? I mean, you can't explain it to me in a way that makes sense. I mean, when you factor in all of this stuff, indie games are digital only, usually digital only, shorter, smaller experiences. This is a first-party Nintendo IP, legendary Metroid franchise. The most recent game on the 3DS was $40. The new current-gen game is $60. $20 difference. Again, every single bullet point and facet of this game's release, to me, easily spells the standard expected $60. And again, we can't forget the $60 price. Nintendo isn't charging more than we normally see charged for games on the Switch or the PS4 or Xbox One, by the way. I mean, it's really the same price as every console except for Sony's first-party games. They're charging the standard, the absolute expected industry standard, $59.99. They're not asking for extra money from any of us. Except for the special edition, but that's a special edition. The regular base game is the normal price. They're not gouging anyone for dollars and cents here with this game. They're doing the most normal thing you could do with a brand new game that you would release. Oh, but of course, we can't forget the Sony games situation where, like I just mentioned, many first-party PlayStation 5 games are selling for $70. I don't even have a problem with that. So this isn't my complaint, by the way. I've purchased both Demon's Souls and Ratchet & Clank at $70, and maybe even Resident Evil was $70. I can't remember what I paid for that, but either way, I paid $70 for a couple of those games. That's fine with me. That's the price they are. I can afford it. I don't really care. But I find it interesting that people are willing to cry about $60 for a Metroid game. Again, let's say it again. Say it with me, everybody. It is a Metroid title. Legendary video game franchise. Normal $60, $70 for Sony games. So many people are comfortable paying for that. That's $10 more than everyone else is charging you. But how many of you are okay with that, yet also yelling about Metroid? The inconsistency is very, very frustrating to me. And again, I say this as somebody who has no problem with any of these prices across the board. I was happy to pay $40 for Samus Returns. I'm happy to pay $60 for Metroid Dread. I was happy to pay $70 for Demon's Souls and for Spider-Man, I think was the other one, by the way. And for Spider-Man and Ratchet and Clank. These are the prices of the games. The budgets are huge. This is where gaming is going. I don't love spending money. I would love to give all of these companies, Nintendo included, as little money as possible, of course. But, I mean, it is what it is. We're only so in control. The only control we have is, as we always say, vote with your wallet. So, if you don't feel comfortable with $60 for Metroid Dread, the beautiful part about this life that we all lead as adults with our own money is you don't have to buy it. Unless you've got someone with a gun behind your head saying, pay $60 for this game you don't want, then you're not going to have to pay $60 for the game. Or you could even wait and just buy it used somewhere. Buy it from a friend. I don't know. Trade in games at GameStop and get it cheaper. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do with your own money, man. That's why we work for our money. I work hard for my money. I know where I'm comfortable spending it, and you better believe I'm comfortable spending it on a new Metroid game that I've been waiting for what feels like 157,000 years. And so, whew, I think that's it, man. I think that's what I had to say about that. You know, it was, I felt it was important for me to get on camera. I knew I was going to have to get on with this stupid sling. This thing is just the bane of my existence, but I really wanted to talk about this, man. This is a big debate. It's a lot of people sharing a lot of bad takes and not understanding the situation. Very, very unfortunate, and as my main man Joey Ferris even shared, this is not the time for gatekeeping in the Metroid franchise. This is the time for everyone to come together in the Metroid fanbase and people who like this saga and just be like happy for what's happening. Let's support it. Let's come together. We don't need to be fighting and yelling about this stuff. I know I just made like probably a 20-minute video kind of ranting about the debate going on, but that's why I chose not to pull specific tweets and feature individuals and stuff, because I didn't want to make it like a personal thing. It's more the argument I'm attacking, not any individual people. Trust me, I have been biting my tongue on Twitter so hard, you guys. You don't even know. I've started so many tweets and responses and quote tweets, and I'm like, no, I don't want to go down this road with this energy. I'm feeling all the good with this Metroid release. I am not here to get in these fights, because I will verbally lacerate anyone when it comes to this. It won't be pretty, but I don't want to do that. So instead, I have this YouTube channel. I made this video discussing the argument and the debate, not the people themselves, and this is just how I feel. This is just my opinion, man. You can feel differently. That's okay. And in fact, I do want to hear how you feel, man. You've heard me rant about it. You know how I feel. $60, no problemo for me. But how do you feel, man? If you are mad about it, if you don't like the price, you know, this is a fine space for you to talk about it below. Maybe people start fighting with each other, but I'm going to not be engaging in any, like, fights. I do want to hear, though. If you're upset about it, share your opinion, man. Just try to be cordial. Is that even possible on the internet anymore? Can we be cordial? I don't know. So this is what's going on. I'm stoked for Metroid. What do you guys think? Talk about it below. With that, this video is a wrap. Thanks, of course, as always, for tuning in, guys. This is Rob of Rule of Two Review, and I will catch you next time on another video.